I believe that education holds the key to a bright future, not only in transforming lives, but in helping communities to see their power to shape the world. Muktangan stands at the forefront. We have dedicated ourselves to unlocking the true potential within every child, teacher, and parent. At the heart of this our educational journey lay the possibility of a powerful synergy, a harmonious connection between the teacher, the child, the parent, and the community.
Over the years, we have developed into an integrated teacher and school education model. Every year, thousands of children thrive, benefiting from holistic learning experiences. Our commitment to excellence is evident in the impressive school pass percentage, averaging at an astounding 99% over 10 years of SSC examinations. The impact continues even after school, with 98% of our alumni pursuing higher education and becoming productive contributors to society. We try to achieve harmony with global goals and national policies. A significant number of points mandated in policy documents like the NEP 2020 have already been pioneered, adopted, and illustrated in the Muktangan model.
Our impact extends beyond our classrooms. Through our outreach project, we have developed a strong partnership with the BMC and various NGO and academic organizations.
As a Muktangan teacher, when first I gave this to work with school, teach them about foundership, literacy and numeracy skills. When I started taking videos, as a coin. But later on, when I took the activities of literacy and numeracy, parents participated in the activity and they understood the importance of education in childhood.
As we gaze upon the future, let us forge ahead, hand in hand. Join us on this extraordinary journey as we continue to make a difference. Every child, every teacher, and every parent has a role to play. Let's unlock boundless potentials and create a world where education knows no boundaries. Fostering this engagement is not just a choice, it is an imperative if we seek to kindle flames of transformation.
We invite you to join hands with us to grow and spread our experiences and learnings with other communities and partner organizations. Your support will enable thousands of other children to realize their fullest potential. Thank you for your support.
Hello, can we begin, Shruti? Yeah. Hello and welcome everyone. Before we begin, we would like to have some requests to be shared with you all so that we follow it during the webinar. Shruti, can we display? Okay, this is the agenda that we will be following today. So, hi, I'm Dhanashri Adandi, Muktangan Schools leader. A warm welcome to everyone here. So, from 3 to 3:10, we will be introducing our speakers and welcoming you everyone. From 3:10 to 3:22, the next will be Miss Elizabeth Mehta, who is our esteemed speaker, will be sharing about curriculum for socio-emotional well-being of children, followed by Miss Dr. Pooja Birwatkar. How can teachers support mental health and well-being? Then we have Mr. Rohit Kumar, who will be sharing with us on skills and professional development required for teachers. Then we have Ms. Fatima Rashid, who will be putting light on school's role in empowering parents. Our today's facilitator is Ms. Kiran Angne, who will be summarizing the key points in the end. So and open forum. We will be taking some questions from all the participants in the end for the last 10 minutes. So if you have any questions regarding the webinar or any suggestions, please feel free to put it in the chat box that will be taken up. So, and they finally follow, in the end, Shruti will be announcing, Dhanashree and Shruti will be making some announcements and concluding the session. Can we have the request display? Yeah. It's a humble request to all of you to stay on mute at all times when you're not speaking so that there is no disturbance to the the ones who are talking. Please keep your videos on. It is helpful for interaction and to stay connected. If you have any as I shared, if you have any questions or suggestions you want to share, or please put them in the chat box. We will try to take them up in the last 10 minutes as already shared. And it's a request to all of you to attend the entire session, as we would greatly appreciate your feedback at the end. There will be a link for the feedback, and we will look forward for your feedback to make our sessions even better. So, hello and welcome everyone. Thank you for taking time to join us today as we talk about implementing a mental well-being curriculum. It's a second webinar of the 3 webinar series that are being hosted by Muktangan in the month of Jan, Feb, and March. Last month, our webinar was on topic importance of teacher beliefs in maintaining good health and well-being of students, which got a huge response. The link for the same will be shared in the chat box or in WhatsApp groups for you also to access it. So let's begin. I hope you all saw the Muktangan film, the work that we are involved with. If you are interested in paying a personal visit in Mumbai, please do visit us. Or for more information, you can log on to our website. So thank you so much, everyone, for taking out time today to join us as we talk about implementing a mental well-being curriculum. So as we say, learner mental wellness is a curriculum, is a crucial concern in today's educational landscape. As students navigate the challenges of academic rigor, social pressures, and personal growth, it is essential to prioritize their mental health. Teachers can help the children co-regulate and navigate through tough moments in the classroom. The National Education Policy, NEP 2020, also states that teachers will also focus on socio-emotional learning, a critical aspect of any student's holistic development. But are teachers equipped with knowledge and skills to support this? Creating socio-emotional processes like counseling services, fostering a supportive and inclusive environment, and promoting skills like emotional regulation and stress management techniques are integral components that need to be implemented for the overall development as well as to nurture the future generations. So without further ado, let's delve into the topic we are here to discuss. Let's begin by introducing to our esteemed speakers we have today with us. So the first speaker is Ms. Elizabeth Mehta. Warm welcome to you, ma'am, for this session. Mrs. Elizabeth Mehta is an accomplished educationist with over 5 decades of experience at all the levels of school education, including extensive work in rural India. During her career, she has been involved in teaching curriculum development and education management. She has also conducted classroom-based pedagogical research and has participated in several international and national conferences. At Muktangan, Liz ma'am oversees the programmatic aspects of the 7 schools and teacher education institute. For her exemplary work in education through the years and for setting up of Muktangan Schools Network, she has been honored with the title of the most excellent member of the most excellent order of the British Empire during the Queen's Birthday Honors of 2015. So, ma'am, we are privileged to have you here. Thank you for coming and joining us. Our next speaker is Dr. Pooja Birwatkar. She has a postdoctorate in science education from Homi Bhabha Center of Science Education. She has done her Masters of Education and MSc Geology from MSU, Baroda, and PhD in Adolescent Psychology from CAS, Baroda, with Junior Research Fellowship from ICSSR, Indian Council of Social Science Research. For PhD, she received Srimati Shakuntala Shakti National Award 2023. She frequently writes for leading platforms like Teacher Plus, Azim Premji Foundation, and Women's Web, and has researched and published many articles in international and national journals of the areas of science and science pedagogy, design thinking, and sustainability. She is also a leadership coach and trainer and has conducted several trainings on pedagogy, experiential learning, design thinking, and learning style. She is also a member of the Board of Studies, governing body, academic council, and board of management across universities. It's an honor to have you, ma'am. Thank you for joining us. Our next speaker is Mr. Rohit Kumar, transitioning from being a our next speaker is Miss Fatima Rashid. Miss Fatima Rashid is the HOD of Department of Counselling and Research, Universal Education. She is also the trustee initiatives of Change India and the course team member of ETST, Education Wing of Initiatives of Change, as well as the core team member of Association of Muslim Professionals. Miss Fatima is a clinical psychologist and psychotherapist. She has pursued postgraduate diplomas in counseling psychology, various certificate courses in different therapies, and has rich experience in the field of mental health. Thank you, ma'am, for joining us. And our next speaker is Mr. Rohit, who is the CEO of Apni, Shala Foundation. So, transitioning from being a software engineer with Tata Consultancy Services, Rohit holds a double master in education and software systems with 60 plus years of experience in the for-profit and social impact space. He is an educator with 16 plus years of experience in various learning environments. Currently, he leads fundraising strategy, SEL design, and organizational development at Apni Shala. He also consults with Seed Project USA, co-facilitating diversity workshop for leaders, educators, and organizations in India and USA. In the recent past, he has published on themes such as organizational well-being, fundraising, SEL, and mental health on forums such as India Development Review, Samuhik Pahal, ILSS Web, Teacher Plus, and Communic, a magazine for the US-based psychologists. So we are all privileged to have all such esteemed speakers on our webinar today. So now I hand over to Ms. Kiran, who is the facilitator of today's session. Kiran, on to you.
Just a second, I think there was some technical glitch.
Yes, while presenting, yeah. Mr. Was it not audible? Okay. On the screen, you see Mr. Rohit. Let me introduce you once again. I hear Shruti saying that there was some technical glitch. So I go again. So he is the CEO of Apni Shala Foundation. He was working as a software engineer with Tata Consultancy Services. He holds a double masters in education and software system with 16 plus years of experience in the for-profit and social impact space. He's an educator with 16 plus years of experience in various learning environments. Currently, he leads fundraising strategy, SL design, and organizational development at Apni Shala. He also consults with the Seed Project USA, co-facilitating diversity workshops for educators, leaders, and organizations in India and USA. In the recent past, he has also published on themes such as organizational well-being, fundraising, SEL, and mental health on forums such as India Development Review, Samuhik Pahal, ILSS Web, Teacher Plus, and Communic, a magazine for the US-based psychologists. Welcome, Mr. Rohit, for the webinar today. So over to Kiran.
You're on mute.
Yeah. Kiran, mute. You're on mute. Please unmute yourself.
Hello,
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Dhanashri, for the introduction and for welcoming all of us. So all of us are very, very excited for today's webinar. And today's webinar, we are going to be talking about implementing mental health curriculum. Um, Now, mental health is more than absence of mental disorders and disabilities. According to World Health Organization 2019, mental well-being is a state in which a person realizes their own abilities, navigates through the normal stressors of life, and can work productively and fruitfully, and is able to contribute to the society. Now, schools are often considered to be second home for the children, and children do spend a lot of time in the schools. Most schools focus on the academic aspects, and some schools do have additional subject of socio-emotional learning. Now, is that enough, or do we need to do more than what we are doing? New education policy has placed importance on mental well-being curriculum for children. It does emphasize on holistic curriculum for the children. Research also shows direct links of mental well-being and educational outcomes. Having said this, I would like to open this conversation, and all of us are going to converse with the speakers. Our speakers are senior people working in the space of education and socio-emotional learning. So I'm very, very happy to have all the four speakers. We are feeling very proud to have you all. And we begin with the conversation with Elizabeth Mehta ma'am. And she is going to be talking about why is mental well-being curriculum essential in schools, and how does Muktangan create a supportive environment that supports mental health. Over to you, Elizabeth Mehta ma'am.
Thank you. I hope everyone can hear me.
Yes, yes.
Yes?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, I am going to start. I'm basically a teacher, a learner, even now. And I learn from kids, I learn from everybody. But this topic, a curriculum for the social emotional well-being of the child, I want to raise a question that I've been struggling with for ages. What is actually meant by the word curriculum? And I think a lot of people confuse it with syllabus. And I think that curriculum is everything that impacts a child in the classroom. Now, for me, what is important when we look at it is basically the relationships that are formed in the classroom between the teacher, the children, between the children. What kind of teacher do we need? And actually the design of the classroom. Does it contribute to the well-being of a child, the socio-emotional well-being? And those are the aspects that I think we've been looking at in Muktangan, apart from our social emotional department, which is doing excellent work. But how do we get the teachers we need that can support the social emotional well-being and development of children? That is a question for me. Could I have the next slide, please? So I have done my teacher education in India. I thoroughly enjoyed the course. I'd taught for 20 years before, but it did raise many questions, which we've tried to address in Muktangan. The first one for me was, maybe things have changed now, but we were asked to, in our internship, to observe the syllabus being delivered. But we did not observe, we were not encouraged, we didn't have the skills to observe individual children learning in the process of learning. And I think that's very important. So we've tried to address this in Muktangan by developing these skills, getting our teachers during internship to observe individual children and produce a case study at the end. This is non-judgmental observation. Observations are shared in tutorials, so our theoretical knowledge can be applied to get them to be sensitive to children in order to support them. Second is, just 1 minute, I've made a few notes. Yeah. We have a very strong program of professional development that continues. So this relationship with the child, we can strengthen it through that. And the same faculty conduct the in-service as the pre-service. In Muktangan, we train women from the same community as the children. And I hadn't realized the importance of this until I attended the first ever seminar on educating the urban slum child in Delhi at Newpa. And I listened to presentation after presentation where they said that conventionally trained teachers did not empathize with these children. They said they were not interested in learning, and the parents had no aspirations. And when I gave my presentation at the end, because that's totally untrue, I realized how valuable it is to have teachers from the same community who are not commuting in, who share a common culture. And I think that adds to the emotional well-being of the children. Another thing that I think is important, we have a special course in our pre-service on understanding self, which I think is important. Okay, now the next aspect for me in developing this crucial part of the curriculum, which is a supportive environment, is the actual classroom itself. Now, could I have the next slide, please, Shruti? How can traditional classrooms and their processes be changed so that both students and teachers develop a sense of well-being? Now, I want to show you a slide of a traditional classroom, Shruti. I mean, it's a very clean, tidy classroom, but just look at it. The teacher is remote from the students. She is writing on the board, on a podium, on a dais. Children are sitting in lines with textbooks. There's none of the children's work on the board. The children are not able to move around at all. They're sitting, and if anybody's tried this, from morning to evening to sit on a hard bench, I don't think we can talk about the development of emotional well-being. It needs re-looking at. So I want to share, you've seen the Muktangan classrooms on the film, but I'd like to share a photo of an activity in Muktangan. Now, I'm not saying we're the only ones doing this. I know many schools are. But in the previous classroom, whose voice was being heard? It was the teacher's voice with the children listening. And if you look at a period of 40 minutes, and you may have 50, 60 children in a class, how much can the children talk about their own ideas, develop their own ideas, interact with one another, interact with a teacher? The circle is our basic structure, whether we're sitting at tables or I think this is probably a circle time where the children are playing games, thinking about social emotional development. The children, the furniture is stackable. They're constantly moving around. All this leads to social emotional well-being. Looking at the materials that are provided, I think all this is essential. And especially the student-teacher ratio. Now, in NEP, they're saying less than 30:1. Many schools have much higher. And for socioeconomically disadvantaged, they recommend 25:1 or less. But I think this is important. The teacher needs to be able to interact with individual children. The curriculum needs to be an interactive curriculum. Our teachers learn to observe the children and track the development of individual children. Provide experiences that the children can discuss and develop their own understanding. With this comes engagement. And all the students are participating, and everybody in the circle is considered a source of knowledge, not just the teacher. And you will notice the teacher sits at the same level of the students. Education needs to be a democratic process. And it's that democracy that leads to the student engagement. So if we go on to the last one, I've had to be quick. I could talk for 3 hours. What have been the benefit of these approaches in Muktangan? Now, in the traditional systems, teachers have to learn techniques of classroom management in order to control, and I'm talking about real traditional classrooms. I know many schools nowadays are doing things differently, but all teachers feel they've got to manage classrooms often of bored, disengaged students who at the end of it, I'm talking about the mainstream, may even drop out. Even the teachers are often disengaged because of the struggle they're having. Now, I don't think this happens in Muktangan, and all our visitors to Muktangan always comment on how our students and teachers appear as happy, engaged learners, and a sense of well-being pervades the classrooms. Hence, they are truly learning classrooms. We all know from brain research, unless the children grow with a feeling of well-being, they are not going to learn. We have left parents out of this, but the basic triangle of the parent, the teacher, and the child, engaging all three together. And we could talk a lot about that. Now, I'm not adding to it because I think discussion is more important. Thank you. Can I pass it over to Kiran again?
Sure, Liz. Liz, ma'am, thank you for your insightful inputs and sharing about what we do in Muktangan. I would like to summarize shortly what Liz, ma'am said. So she spoke about the quality of relationships between teachers and children to be very important. And when the teacher knows each and every child in her group or in her classroom, she is able to go beyond academics, and then because with this relationship, the child's performance, the outcomes, the learning goes on the higher level. Also, she talked about the design of the classroom. Now, having stackable furniture, having space in the classroom where children can do various activities, and also the design of classroom where teacher is in a close circle with the children is something which could be which could help in developing positive relationship with the teacher, because there the teacher is not the sole knower of the knowledge, but the knowledge sharing is equal responsibility of all the participants of learning in the classroom. Um, Also collaboration. So when we are in a circle, there's a lot of collaboration. We don't really look at competition. So that also helps in developing good relationships with the teachers and the peers, because there's no competition between the peers. It is collaborative learning. And yes, democratic process of learning where children's voices are very important, as important as teachers, and children are constructing their knowledge in collaboration with the teachers. Teachers are facilitators who are helping the children construct their knowledge. So thank you, Les ma'am. This was very insightful. So we move to our next speaker, and our next speaker is Dr. Pooja Birwatkar. She is going to be talking about effective strategies for teachers to support students in their mental well-being. Over to you, Pooja ma'am.
Thank you. And can I have the PowerPoint presentation, please? Um, so I think mental health is something that is, I would say, very alarming these days, especially after Corona. We've been hearing so much about mental health, so much so that whether we can ignore it or is no longer the question. We have to address it as educationists. Even whatever may be the reason, we may blame technology, we may be blames our socialization patterns have changed, we may blame the media, whatever. But we just cannot shift the blames without addressing the issues. Now, when we look at what kind of strategies do teachers employ to, look after the mental health of students, let me also bring forth some stark realities because, every time when we talk about education systems, our centers focus on the teachers and our expectations from the teachers are huge. But at the same time, you also have to understand the stark realities and the situation that the teachers are in. So while the expectations are very justified, the expectations are very real, we also have to consider the other points, other side of the coin. Next slide, please. Yeah, so while this webinar, of course, brings us from a no hope situation to a spark of hope to bring looking at some kind of a scope that we are going to generate. Next slide. So let us look at some hakikate of our classrooms where you can see one typical Indian classroom, which is so crowded that what to talk about the mental health of the students. We also have to look into the mental health of the teacher and the physical exhaustion that the teacher faces. Now, how do I looking at all these bright faces sitting in my classroom, where they're like Liz ma'am was talking about, how they are sitting. It is so uncomfortable. What to talk about the mental health? First, let us look at the physical health only. That is also being compromised. Let us look at these certain other situations where we talk about the pressures to perform. Ours is a very marks oriented. Still, whatever we may say, of course, the national education policy does bring in a sense of a relief, but we still have many more years to go to see whether we are going to deviate and move away out of this vicious circle of academics and marks. And when we look at these overcrowded classrooms or the pressures, we do have a lot of episodes like Kota. It is very alarming to see that now it has come as a monthly news that every month we see some suicides happening in Kota, and who's to be blamed? So is it mental health? Is it something else? Is it a very comprehensive picture which is talking about all this? Next slide, please. So this is also certain realities when we talk about mental health. Mental health is very stigmatized. The way we've grown up understanding mental health is somebody who's pagal. That is I would be very honest to say this from that started, and then we have of course realized that is as important as physical health, and there is no stigma around it. So while we have to address it, we of shortage of mental health professionals and counselors, and of course the teachers have a limited time. You can see the cartoon out there, where in the world does she have time to address the mental health issues? And then of course we are having too much expectations out of the teachers to also address this, but nevertheless they have to do it. In fact, they don't have to do it. It comes as naturally as a sort of an empathetic angle that is very largely associated with the teaching profession as one of the human, very emotional human kind of a profession. Next slide, please. I'll also talk about the teacher education curriculum that we have. The kind of, in fact, I would not even say it is a curriculum. It's not that very comprehensive, but in the sense that it is not addressing a lot of issues that are attached with mental health. When we look at the B.Ed and D.Ed, I think it's a very fluid understanding of the role of a teacher. So all you think is that when while doing your teacher training, that the teacher has to be good in the content and she has to know a lot of pedagogical pedagogical strategies, and that is what makes an effective teacher. Well, I do not blame the teacher trainees while they're undergoing this, because when you go and take some stray lessons in schools, you do not have this personal interactions with the classroom students. You just meet them once or twice just for few hours, and you do not realize you have your own pressures, that classroom discipline has to be maintained, you are being marked, and where you have time to look into the social emotional aspects of the classroom. You've not been trained into social emotional learning. B.Ed does talk about psychology, but that is again very very limited. It does talk about if I look at all the slow learners, gifted learners, inclusive education, disability, mental health, but these are very very superficial. One, you do not understand unless you have an experience, you live in the real classrooms to acknowledge all this. And then again, these teacher trainings are so much heavily devoted on practicum and experience that they do not have any scope for such kind of this thing. In fact, it is like an emotional labor, because you don't have any kind of training for this emotional labor. You do not know how to manage the crisis. All you know is that you are supposed to give a good lesson in terms of achieving the learning outcomes, where mental health doesn't happen to be any of the learning outcomes. And again, there's no collaboration with mental health, the professionals. I'll be very very honest to say that we do call in some expert, but these are again very very limited kind of an exposure. And then when you send these teachers out as teachers the next year, if for the first few years, they do this dangerous labeling of the students when they are not able to take the pressures of the classroom, when they are not able to handle. They say, okay, this is to be referred to the counselor. There is too much of stereotype and media portrayals. How do we identify somebody who is having a mental health issue? So we have these very typically marked characteristics, and when somebody exhibits this even in moments of euphoria, you think there is some kind of overgeneralization of symptoms, I would say. And then of course, a lot of people do realize, but there is a dilemma. What do I do? Am I equipped to do that? I would say that, with a limited teacher training, please do not attempt to address the mental health, because it requires really, really sustained efforts to recognize and take the needed steps. If you're not equipped, so please admit, but do not do do not go the dangerous way of taking things in your hand when you are not trained to do so. I just, again, wouldn't blame the B.Ed and the D.Ed, because the B.Ed and the D.Ed are very hurried 2 years running around the course. There are a lot of expectations in terms of the curricular standards, and then we do not have exclusively earmarked considerations about the social emotional learning. Next slide, please. Now, nevertheless, since we're talking about effective strategies, I'll talk about very, very simple strategies that a teacher can employ in a very typical traditional Indian classroom. The next slide. So I think what we forget is that when we talk about mental health, we need consistency. What is consistency? Consistency where? So we need consistency. Students look up for consistency in terms of the teacher behavior. You cannot have too much of, a paradigm of your behavior ranges, because that automatically transfers on to the students. We cannot, we need to have clear rules, routines, and expectations, because that brings in order. You need to have empathy and reflections. You need to have these safe, supportive learning environments, where kindness, optimism, affirmations, acknowledgements, positive feedbacks, they make a, they creep into the general classroom transactions that happen on a consistency. That is, what is.
Ma'am, we lost you for a while. Dr. Pooja, your screen is frozen.
Hello?
There is
Good.
some network issue, I think,
Yes.
Pooja ma'am.
So we missed few sentences that you said.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, ma'am, you're audible now, but we missed few sentences that you said.
Okay, nevertheless, can I go to the next slide? So again, when we talk about some other strategies, I think exercise, it's very important because it releases endorphins, it elevates the mood. And again, it forms these very important threads of socialization. And socialization, I think, goes a long way when we talk about reducing stress. And also that, when you do exercise, you feel little powerful, you feel little in sync with your emotions and the body control, and that goes a very long way. Like sometimes, when we have this stress, people always say go for a walk, or meet people, talk around. So this is very important to be done. And there's a lot of outdoor classes, because one, the stimulus has to be broken. You need to have a lot of variations in the stimulus that you provide, because otherwise it is stagnancy sitting there, like Liz ma'am was saying, sitting in those wooden benches and tables for long. It is very killing. Next slide, please. Another thing, when we were again taking from where Liz ma'am was talking about the classroom arrangement. So you can see I've put a variety of classroom arrangements, but there are spaces, which are earmarked for the students, where, these are your corners where you can do anything, draw, read, music, or even fidget, or, just do nothing but just sit there. So if you see these typical classroom arrangements, so much of space classroom for me to make some kind of judgment.
Dr. Pooja, we are unable to hear you.
Next slide, please. Can I have the next slide? Yeah. So this is talking about mindfulness. We all recognize what is the importance of mindfulness. So let us have these mindfulness exercises in the classroom, where, students realize that it's okay to not feel okay today, and also to recognize when they're not feeling well, and to even communicate that I today am not feeling well, and it is completely okay to talk about my emotions. This morning, I think we all read about a very disturbing news in the paper, where there was a case of some 8 students from the pre-primary being molested on a school trip. They were second standard students, but they were taught about the good and the bad touch, and they could recognize and report to the parents. I think that was very important. That is also how I related to mental health, that students themselves realize that something is missing today, and it's completely okay that I go and talk to others about it, or in fact it's good that I recognize it myself. Next slide. Again, having these happiness months every month, having a day which is solely, for happiness. I think we can just take a day of not engaging into any kind of a curriculum syllabus completion, but just talking about feelings. Everybody talking about their feelings, calling in the teachers, the peers, teachers having these lesson plans which are specifically devoted towards that, having these additional counseling services. It is a day when we open up, when we talk, nobody talks that day. Let us say nothing happens that day, but we do recognize that it is something important that is there today. So, that feeling generates, and I take it over from there. Next slide. So this is the last one where I would want to talk about, when we talk about the voices in the classroom. I think very important that students take the ownership of their own classroom routines. They decide how they are going to learn. They decide how they are going to communicate. They get an opportunity to demonstrate their preferred learning style. They find out what is working, what is not. So this is not directly. This is not indirectly or directly related to mental health. I would say this is the thing that we need, because we need to understand that when I have a lot of control in my classroom situations, I will also exercise that control in my own lives and also outside the classrooms. And I think when we learn how to express our voices and our choices, that makes me a very well balanced individual. And all these simple things can happen in the classroom. And but of course they're very incremental. Transformations wouldn't happen in 1 or 2 days, but if we start from a very early on, and as the school students go through these school stages, they realize that schools are looking beyond academics. Schools are looking at their individualities and celebrating it. So I think in the end, I would just like to end with the last slide and a quote. So it says, whenever we look at behaviors, you also have to look at the feelings. And beneath every feeling, there is a need. And when these needs are met, rather than focusing on the behaviors, we begin to deal with the cause and not the symptom. And I think this is where we need to start reflecting on where are we looking at? Are we looking at the symptoms or are we looking at the root causes? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Pooja Birwatkar, for your talk. And we are actually thinking about the current scenario where we have overcrowded classrooms. What do we do about mental health of the teachers? It's not only about children. If the teacher is well mentally, will she be able to handle children? And also, you brought into our notice about the performance pressure that is there on the children, on the teachers to complete the syllabus, also lack of school counselors, lack of space where children can talk about mental health, and also stigma surrounding mental health. Also, if a child is referred to a counselor, so what do other people say? What do my parents say? What do my teachers think? So that's a question. Also, the flight of teacher trainees who are doing pre-service courses and the gaps in the syllabus. How do we make the curriculum of B.Ed more robust to help them have good relationships with the children and not just focus on lesson planning, just do the maths lesson or just do, but then how do we have a space where we can talk about building quality relationships with the children? Um, Also, I really am thinking about the point you talked about having so B.Ed or D.Ed colleges having collaborations with mental health professionals so as to learn from them. Very, very insightful. And the strategies you talked about were consistency in rules, empathy, teachers being able to empathize with the children, and that empathy also gets transferred to the children. If the teacher is empathetic, the children also behave in an empathetic way. Uh, Giving positive feedback, being kind, being respectful to the children, uh, having physical activities, exercises, which will release, which will help them release hormones, and their happiness hormones. You talked about endorphins, um, giving them stimulation so as to get put on their thinking caps, mindfulness to be a part of school routine, maybe being aware of healthy, unhealthy touch, being aware of self. Very, very important. You talked about a day where they just come and have fun in the school. That's also very nice. And lastly, about taking ownership for learning. Very, very insightful, Dr. Pooja Birwatkar. Thank you. Thank you for answering the question. We now move on to the third speaker, uh, Mr. Rohit Kumar, and he will be talking about the skills that we need to equip teachers for to manage their own mental health needs. So skills that will help teachers to manage their own mental health needs. Over to you, Mr. Rohit.
Thank you, Kiran, and it was really lovely to listen to Liz and Pooja. Just speak about and just layer it up the conversation. I'm also feeling a little bit, Ari, I haven't prepared enough. I don't have a presentation with me. Hopefully, I will talk through some of the conversations that you all kind of really beautifully centered for us. I also want to take a pause here because we have heard a lot. And for audience, if you can just like take a moment of pause. बहुत कुछ सुना है पिछले almost around 40 minutes conversation में. And if you can, in the chat box, share how are you feeling right now? एक शब्द में, एक phrase में, एक sentence में, if you can write down in the chat box, how are you feeling right now? Just take a moment of pause. जितनी भी बातें हमने सुनी, वो सुन के कैसा लग रहा है इस वक्त? Happy? Great. Happy. Take a moment to notice what's happening in your body, what's happening in your mind.
His Jayanti Nayak has put thoughtful, excited,
Uh,
others have put happy,
yeah,
curious, relaxed.
hopeful.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for taking this pause because when we speak about mental health, I think it is important to also notice that the world around us is moving at a pace that is not really contributive to a healthy mental health or space for anyone for that matter. When we speak about teachers, the kind of work that they have to do in their day-to-day being is a very different type of work and expectation. So, first thing first, I think it is important for us to recognize that social emotional learning, mental health are not same things. They are supportive and contributing aspects, but social emotional development and learning is one aspect of larger mental health landscape, and that understanding is very critical of when we speak about teachers and what skills they need, one to manage their own mental health, but also to be able to support young people's development. I think there are a couple of things to be thinking about. One is, uh, should the teacher be working on students' mental health alone, right? Or is that a collective responsibility of the school? And that is very important to really articulate. When we speak about mental health, physical health, well-being of a child, uh, ultimately it is the zoomed in focus goes on a classroom, but we need to zoom out a little bit. We need to look at what is a school leader's role in thinking about students' well-being. Is this systemically structured in the school setting? Is that really a school policy? Because many a times we kind of isolate these things and put everything on the teacher. And I think some of the previous speakers spoke about that, right? आप मैथ भी पढ़ा लो, मेंटल हेल्थ भी देख लो, फिजिकल हेल्थ भी देख लो, न्यूट्रिशन भी देख लो। टीचर ट्रेनिंग में जितनी ट्रेनिंग मिली वो ऑलरेडी कम है बेसिक मैथ इंग्लिश पढ़ाने के लिए, और फिर हम ये सब कुछ टीचर्स से एक्सपेक्ट करते हैं, राइट? So we need to zoom a little bit out and think about what are the conducive environments designed in the school, and usme teachers will contribute in designing, co-designing. Can teachers participate along with the principals and the school leaders and trustees, depending on the nature of the school, if it's private school, public schools, or has that design in place been in place or not? क्या वो design ही बनाया गया है? Is the school ecosystem conducive for mental health for all people involved? And in that, then of course, the teachers' mental health, students' mental health, uh, peons' mental health, principals' mental health, everyone's well-being will have to be considered for, right? So, so hence we have to look at it in two ways. One is a systemic response to mental health. One is what are the skills required for teachers to be able to do this? So I will first speak about the skills. The first skill is to be able to recognize that what is mental health, like basically the basic knowledge pieces, like mental health is a spectrum, or there are mental health conditions, there's distress, there's mental well-being, people flow on the spectrum. Being able to know this, right, that's basic level of awareness. And then also some strategies for people to be able to just on a day-to-day basis maintain hygiene. As a physical health के terms में हम बोलते हैं ना, और आप सादा खाना खाइए, अच्छा खाना खाइए, हेल्दी फूड खाइए ताकि बीमारियां कम हो, and then बीमारी हो जाए तो the ability to go to a doctor, or the intent to go to a doctor. Just like that, one on a day-to-day basis, one can maintain their basic mental health hygiene. You are sleeping well, or you are able to kind of eat well, because physical health and mental health are intertwined. And then, of course, when you are feeling that there have been a longer days or like multiple days of low, also being able to seek a therapist's help. uh, all of these are skills which are related to awareness of the mental health spectrum. I'm also speaking with a very full awareness. A lot of it is also comes back to privilege, right? Who has access to a therapist? Who doesn't? Who Many female staff members have shared in the past that while they have like this rigorous day at work, they also go back home and then again have another rigorous day at home. खाना बनाना है, घर के काम है, सारे बच्चे मम्मी के पास आते हैं, पापा के पास नहीं जाते. A lot of these things have to be talked about, right? because women are working in the schools, in the classrooms, they are going home working. Like जो rest होता है, right? Where is that accounted for, right? Which then is very, very critical for well-being. So whenever I'm speaking about skills, I'm always very aware that the social structures have to be also kind of reset, right? Now, the skills are similar skills जो हम बच्चों को सिखाएंगे, वही हमको पहले सीखनी पड़ेगी. तो सेल्फ अवेयरनेस सीख पाना, सेल्फ मैनेजमेंट सीख पाना, रिलेशनशिप स्किल्स सीख पाना, social awareness सीख पाना, responsible decision making सीख पाना. All of these skills are going to remain what we are hoping to facilitate for our students. We should be able to kind of first learn it for ourselves, क्योंकि हमें नहीं सिखाया गया है, right? इसके साथ then ये भी देख पाना कि क्या उसकी प्रैक्टिकल अपॉर्चुनिटीज हैं. ये ऐसा नहीं है आज सीख लिए एंड स्विच ऑन एंड स्विच ऑफ बटन तो नहीं है. आज सीखेंगे और प्रैक्टिस करते रहने पड़ेगी, राइट? उसके लिए इंटेंशनली स्पेस बनाते रहना पड़ेगा खुद के लिए. अगर हम टीचिंग कम्युनिटी में हैं तो टीचिंग कम्युनिटी के लिए आई गिव एन एग्जांपल. हम अपनी शाला में कैसे करते हैं, और वी रियलाइज दैट इसके लिए टाइम नहीं मिलता है, राइट? बट मॉर्निंग सुबह 10 मिनट या 15 मिनट का वी डू समथिंग कॉल्ड मॉर्निंग हडल्स. The purpose of those morning huddles is for teachers, not for students. What we do is, ये 10 मिनट में, there are 2 teachers who will manage all the students who are coming. They will take them to assembly वगैरह वगैरह होगा, but बाकी सारे teachers and staff will come to one classroom जहाँ पे सब लोग सिर्फ 5 मिनट की mindfulness practice, gratitude practice, ऐसी कोई चीज every day करते हैं. When it is part of the school routine and school design for the teachers, I'm not even talking about the students. What are the practices and times created in the school for the teachers to be able to practice this? So एक बार सिखा दिया, ओरिएंटेशन में आपको ट्रेनिंग मिल गई, लेकिन उसका प्रैक्टिस करने का अपॉर्चुनिटी कहाँ है, वो डेवलप करना बहुत जरूरी है. So that the skills that are required to be developed are SEL competencies, but opportunities created for those development is part of the school design. Second, I think when I was speaking about social emotional learning is not equal to mental health, and that there is larger and more stuff happening. When we start doing social emotional development, what also happens is a lot of disclosures start coming out, right? आपने बात करना शुरू किया safe and tastes of touch का, students will start reporting sexual abuse at home. आपने बात करा violence and bullying का, students will start reporting domestic abuse, right? तो ये जो disclosures हो रहे हैं, उसका एक टीचर क्या करे, right? This also brings overwhelm. This also brings a lot of distress for the teachers, right? अभी मैं इंग्लिश पढ़ा रही थी, उसमें मैंने एक SEL को इंटीग्रेट कर दिया. मैंने तो बात कर ली आइडेंटिटी की. Now the child is talking about, okay, I think I'm gay and I'm feeling attracted towards boys, and the teacher has the bias. What's going to happen in those contexts, right? So being able to also talk about how am I going to manage and support in times of disclosure. That's another skill the teachers or anyone who's facilitating SEL or mental health have to be coached on, trained on. And again, going back to the school's responsibility, the school principal and the administration should create the right kind of policies and processes so that the teachers feel supported, that hey, अगर ऐसा कुछ आया जो मैं नहीं handle कर सकता या कर सकती, what needs to happen? How do we close the loop for that? Because loops will start opening up, but closing of the loops are equally critical. And it shouldn't be only on the teachers. Of course, teachers should be coached on in that moment मैं क्या करूँ as a first responder, but at the same time, what is my support system, right? Who do I go to speak after this? Do I go to a counselor? Is there a counselor in the school? If not a counselor, then who do I go to? Principal है, social worker है, किसके साथ बात करें, right? तो ये बनाना बहुत जरूरी है. And third piece is also recognizing that what are my boundaries? I am not a counselor. I am a maths teacher with a good intention, right? With some skills to facilitate social emotional learning, and hence recognizing my boundaries of work and also developing partnerships, right? How can I partner with a counselor if there's in the school? If not, then has the school developed those systems of partnership and longer therapy and counseling based support for the students, right? So being able to kind of recognize that. So these are some of the things that are the skills or that are required largely for teachers to be able to take care of their own mental health, but also think of it for their students. Another piece is that the balance of self-care and community care. Many a times the focus on self-care goes on so much that we forget that mental health is not an individual discourse. It's a systemic discourse. Many a time systems create problems of mental health. And hence we have to come into a community to kind of care for each other. right? And then we'll thinking about systemic support, like Liz spoke about the student-teacher ratio. Unless we solve for that, no good social emotional development or mental health work can happen at all. Or unless we fix or really strengthen our teacher training programs. I mean, a lot of things cannot be done. So how do we look at resetting teachers' roles and responsibilities in a school setting in the context? I think that piece is equally critical to then to expect from teachers that, hey, you can do a well-being centered education. So if we really want our teachers to do well-being centered education, they will have to experience well-being centered job or environment, right? So that they can translate it for their students. Thank you so much. I will wrap up here and happy to take any questions when they're ready.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Rohit. You have so I liked when you started, you asked us to pause, and pausing is something that we especially Mumbaikars don't know how to do, and I think that's something which is also needed for our mental health. So thank you for that, and also thank you for drawing the distinction between mental health and social emotional learning. So you have brought in some questions which I would like to reiterate. So mental health of children is whose responsibility? Is it only teachers or is it schools? किसका है? किसकी जिम्मेदारी है? ये पहले figure out करना बहुत जरूरी है. And I also appreciate the idea of having a collaborative effort of school management and teachers to provide conducive environment. जैसे आपने कहा कि सिर्फ teachers की responsibility नहीं है, systems भी होने चाहिए जिसमें mental well-being सबकी सबकी care हो, mental well-being की care हो, सबके mental well-being की care हो रहा था. And skills for the teachers that you talked about, mental hygiene समझना class का खुद के लिए, having therapists in the school. अगर school में नहीं है तो क्या हम network कर रहे हैं किसी और organizations में अपने mental health के लिए. और जैसा आपने कहा कि teachers की mental health के बारे में कोई ज्यादा नहीं सोचते, काफी कम organizations है जो सोचते हैं. एंड यही बोलते हैं कि तुम्हें करना चाहिए, और फिर टीचर बच्चों को बोलती है कि तुम्हें ये सब करना चाहिए. सो आई मीन आई एम आल्सो थिंकिंग अबाउट द ब्लेम गेम दैट आल्सो हैपेंस, and also opportunities to practice. Now if you are saying mindfulness, अगर बच्चों को सिखाना है तो टीचर्स को आता है क्या टीचर्स प्रैक्टिस करती है, और वो प्रैक्टिस करने के लिए क्या हम टाइम दे रहे हैं, क्या हमारे पास वो सिस्टमिक ऑर्गेनाइजेशन है, वो टाइम है क्या, वो लॉजिस्टिकली हमने सेट किया है क्या. ऑल्सो हैंडलिंग डिस्क्लोजर्स, आई थिंक वेरी वेरी इम्पोर्टेंट. हम ट्रेन करते टीचर्स को सेफ अनसेफ टच को डिस्टिंग्विश करने के लिए, बच्चों को पढ़ाने के लिए, बट अगर वो बोलते हैं हमें बताते हैं तो हम क्या करें. तो इसके बारे में भी चर्चा होना इज सो इम्पोर्टेंट. एंड ऑल्सो यू टॉक्ड अबाउट बाउंड्रीज, एंड मुझे एज अ टीचर मेरी बाउंड्री पता होना बहुत इम्पोर्टेंट है कि मैं कहाँ तक जाऊं, और अगर मुझे नहीं पता कि कैसे जाना है आगे तो मैं किससे बात करूं. So setting up the process is very very important. Thank you for your talk. We will now move to the next speaker. Our next speaker is Ms. Fatima Rashid. Fatima Rashid ma'am is going to talk about how schools make parents aware and equipped with the skills to understand and be involved in the mental well-being of their children. Over to you, Fatima.
Thank you. Am I audible?
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so first of all, I would like to thank all of my Muktangan, but also I would like to thank Rohit because he made my job a little easy. So it's going to be a little overlap, but I'm happy about it. It can be a revision and not a overlap. Okay, so the topic given to me, what schools can do about the social emotional well-being and the mental health and all. And my question starts with the first thing is, what do we mean by schools? If we feel school is a building where academics happen, I don't agree. Because for myself, in my mind, schools are the centers of learning for all stakeholders in the process of education. And when we talk about all stakeholders, it includes teachers, students, parents, and the community around us. So ideally, school is a place where learning happens for all the stakeholders. So what happens in the school? Okay, education happens in the school. Now, my second question is, what do we mean by education? I mean, I see and I feel very disappointed and sometimes very disheartened also when we get confused between education and academics. I strongly believe that schools are the bestest intervention points which are getting wasted in academics. Not undermining the importance of academics. Academics is a very, very strong component of education. But education is all about nurturing the future citizens who are capable of productively making world a better place for themselves and for the others. But really feel very disappointed when no school talks about it. When I meet teachers and I say, okay, what do you do? And they say, I'm a teacher. What do you teach? And they say, I teach maths and I teach science. In my lifetime, I want to meet that just one teacher in my life who comes to me and say, Fatima, I'm a teacher and I teach my students how to live life effectively. So I'll start with my story. So after doing my master's, my MA and MPhil in clinical psychology from Bombay University, I started my clinic. And I live in Bombay, Lokhandwala area, if you know about it. So this is a very upcoming area. And the USP of my profession is, जितनी society भ्रष्ट और बिगड़ती है, उतना हमारी income बढ़ती है. Because then you see, inflow of the clients in your clinic all the time. And my clinic was in Lokhandwala area, and I was doing very well clinically. Economically also. I mean, my appointment diary used to be full, and don't get Dr. Rashid's appointment for 15 days or so. In the language, life was very cool. As in my introduction, they spoke about IOC, Initiatives of Change, where we do a lot of emphasis on inner listening. That was the time when I started observing a lot of young people coming to my clinic. Some school children being referred by school counselor, referred by parents, some young people for addictions, drug addictions or smoking or cigarettes or whatever, pathological lying, anger management, aggression, marital discord, university students, newly married couples and all. And that made me think about what's happening. Because of so many young people are landing up in a shrink's room, it indicates that something is horribly wrong in the society. And that inner voice inside me started becoming a little louder and louder. It started actually troubling me and making me very uncomfortable. It started saying me that, what are you doing? You are too busy earning money. But no matter how good a person is, it's very difficult to repair the broken adults. But it's easy to prevent, so people don't come to a shrink's room. And when you want to do the preventive work and when you want to work on the social emotional well-being of growing children, the idealist intervention points are schools. And why I say schools? I mean, रोहित ने बहुत अच्छा बोला कि स्कूल और टीचर के बारे में सब बोलते हैं, टीचर ये करो, टीचर वो करो. It's not possible for me to visit 1,000 schools. But those 1,000 children coming to one school gives me the opportunity to work with 1,000 parents and 1,000 children and 1,000 teachers. So I thought schools are the bestest intervention points. And what is the mission here? Rohit also spoke about the policy. एक अकेली टीचर कुछ नहीं कर सकती है, तो स्कूल्स की पॉलिसी क्या है? आप प्रोडक्टिव सिटीजन बनाना चाहते हो, हेल्दी सिटीजन्स बनाना चाहते हो, या आप 10th के बोर्ड में 100% पासिंग परसेंटेज लाना चाहते हो या 100% मार्क्स लाना चाहते हो, that you have to decide. And when we decide the vision and mission statement of the school, we have to work together very, very closely with all the stakeholders, I see. So I want to shift attention from the teachers. Up till now, we were talking about teachers to the parents. Now, as a clinical person, I know that, growth happens. physical, mental, emotional, all kind of growth happens, but growth does not happen in a vacuum. It happens in an environment. And what I am today is an interaction of my genetics and my environment. When I don't have control over my genetics, I have got 100% control over my environment. And when we talk about environment, we talk about home, which is the biggest influence on my environment, and the schools, which also plays a very important role. So hence we shift our attention to schools. That together, schools and parents provide this kind of environment for the child to grow in whatever ways. You know, आजकल हर कोई बोलता है कि आजकल के बच्चे बहुत ज्यादा स्मार्ट हो गए हैं, बहुत इंटेलिजेंट हो गए हैं, और मैं हमेशा पेरेंट्स को पूछती हूँ अपने वर्कशॉप में कि क्वालिटी कंट्रोल मैनेजर कोई चेंज हुआ है क्या ऊपर, और अगर नहीं हुआ है तो हाउ चिल्ड्रन आर स्मार्ट. Children are smarter and more intelligent they look like because they are being nurtured and grown in a different environment. So environment plays a very important role. आज जो सोसाइटी की हालत है जैसा है उसका रिफ्लेक्शन हम बच्चों के अंदर देख रहे हैं. So that's why it's very important for us to work on in the environment of the child, school plus home environment. And here we are talking about the home environment. My experience working with the school environment tells me सबसे mistrusting relationship is between home and school. कभी भी कोई बच्चे का कोई इशू आता है या कंसर्न आता है तो स्कूल विल ब्लेम द पेरेंट्स कि इनके घर का माहौल खराब है, या पेरेंट्स विल से वो बच्चा बस में सीखता है या स्कूल का एनवायरनमेंट खराब. And I really want to tell you that that's very detrimental for any school or any child or any parent also. Because school is an intervention point when both of these influences in the child's life, school and parents should have a very, very trusting and open relationship with each other. So when we start trusting each other, when we involve them as one of the important stakeholder in the process of education, emotional well-being, mental well-being, physical, whatever you want to talk about it, we have to pay a lot of attention to our parents' education as well. And I'm using the word parents' education because I really feel parents don't know any better. We have to teach them how to unlearn the old skills, and we have to teach them how to deal with the new generation who is coming up in a very, very different environment and different society and has different, societal changes. I mean, starting from the joint host families to the nuclear families to no parent at home with a child alone, resulting in so much of depression, no emotional bonding between parent and child. We see a lot of violence amongst the parents itself. So we have to make our parents aware of that without blaming, without calling names. How do we win that trust with the parents? And how do we open communication, trusting communication with the parents that आपका goal और हमारा goal दोनों का ये है कि how to nurture the children under our care. And that's why we have to join hands. तो सबसे पहली बात जो स्कूल कर सकता है वो ये कर सकता है कि आपको अपना एक ट्रस्टिंग और ओपन कम्युनिकेशन चैनल बनाना है. पेरेंट्स आपके साथ ट्रस्ट करें, आप पेरेंट्स की बात सुनो और वो आपकी बात सुनो. That's very important. We have to work as partners. We have to psycho-educate parents. We have to also teach them how to talk. We have to also teach them how to listen. मैं सबसे बड़ा चैलेंज सारी पेरेंट्स कम्युनिटी को ये देती हूँ कि आप जो भी बच्चे के साथ बात कर रहे हैं, whatever your communication is with the child, please keep a log. Please keep a log and please monitor how much is the instruction and how much is listening. आपके और आपके बच्चे के बीच में जो बात होती है वो you do this, you backpack करो, ये नहीं करो, वो नहीं करो. So many do's and don'ts, do's and don'ts. Where is listening happening? How much listening is important? और जब वो बच्चा teenage हो जाएगा, when he realizes there are no listeners around, जब वो बात नहीं करेगा तब आपको बहुत दुख होगा कि ये बच्चा मेरे से कुछ बात नहीं करता. But for listening, we have to be present in our child's life. And now, because we are not present in our child's life, we have coined a term quality time. I mean, I'm sorry about it. Children need time, period. Quality education is a term which is created by people like us who are working. So without, going into the stereotype gender roles, I would say one parent has to have a flexible role, flexible job when you are present in the child's life. And, often I feel that, women, especially औरतें, जब हम काम पे निकलती हैं बच्चों को अकेला छोड़ के, we carry a lot of guilt with us. We almost feel we are abandoning our children. तो बहुत guilt होता है, which is not good for our own mental health also. And also understand, हम जब parents की बात करते हैं, हमारे teachers भी parents हैं कहीं ना कहीं. So they also carry a lot of guilt, a lot of burden on what mental health and physical health we are talking about. And because we are guilty, we feel bad about it. We want to compensate our absence with the presence. I always say children need our presence and not presence. Which is, inching us, not inching, it's leading very, very quickly and fast with a good speed towards the consumerism society. People have started valuing things. We have to also teach our parents how to help our children on the virtual world. A lot of bullying happens. We put our pictures with the filters and we don't like 500 likes, लड़की को depression हो जाता है. In my clinic, children walk in and say, "Ma'am, मेरे को clinical depression हो गया and I think I'm suffering with post-traumatic stress disorder or I'm suffering with OCD." They come with the diagnosis. Why? Because there is always a Google Baba available to them, which is so sad. These are very different times, different society, different. जिसमें हमारे बच्चे बड़े हो गए, उसमें बहुत important role है कि parents और school साथ में मिलके काम. So a lot of education is to be given to parents about psycho-educate them about the various developmental needs. Teenage में बच्चा defiant होता है, impulsive होता है, that is his neurological and developmental need. So please don't make it as a war zone at home. एक particular age में बच्चा curious होता है about the sexuality. That is a passing phase. It will go away. Please don't make a, big kind of thing from that. So psychoeducation, these parents are very, very important. Role modeling is very important. Are parents role model for the children? What we want our children to be, are we doing that? Because when parents approach me and they tell me that, "Ma'am, our children don't listen to us," I said, "That's okay. That's a lesser evil. You should be bothered about that your children are watching you all the time." So the importance of being role model. Cases of displaced anger. Parents are stressed in their lives because of the job, because of the travel, because of whatever you say. Exhausted mentally and physically. And I don't have to explain what I mean by displaced anger. कि कहीं से थक के आते हैं और वो बच्चों पर निकलते हैं. तो घर में एक war zone बनता है. So we have to teach them about abuse, physical and emotional abuse. I mean, Pooja ने अभी बताया, and I also read that in the morning. It's there very much. It's a real thing. Lurking around in our environment, बच्चों को कुछ भी हो सकता है. What are we doing? How much open door communication we have with our children? How many parents can have the sex education talk with the children? We should understand at the teenage, it's very, very important for child to be curious about sexuality. Rohit talks about handling disclosures. It's not only applicable to teachers how to handle, it is also equally more important for the parents to handle disclosures. कि हम वो disclosures को कैसे handle कर रहे हैं. और ये सब जो नई जमाने के जो problems हैं, parents don't know how to deal with them. They don't know. They are not doing anything deliberately. So it's the school's responsibility also to teach them and take them as one of the very, very important stakeholders and psycho-educate them. Extend the counseling facilities to the parents when they get overwhelmed with the process of parenting, or when they get overwhelmed with displaced angers and the jobs and marital problems or something. Extend the facility of counseling. Tell them we are open to you, so please come and talk to us, because that's ultimately going to affect the child sitting in my class. So we have to also tell them that. I feel we have to just tell our teachers and parents that any misbehavior on the child's part is a cry for help. It tells us that there is something wrong in the child's environment, external or internal. And if we are able to focus on that and do something about it, then we can say that yes, we are taking care of social, emotional well-being or the mental health of the child. I think I've got a strong poster in my office. I can't zoom it here, which says, all children need love. All children need love, especially those who don't deserve it. तो पेरेंट्स को ये समझाना भी बहुत जरूरी है कि डोंट accept your child conditionally. Don't be judgmental about it. And whenever I speak to parents about being non-judgmental and accept without conditions, and they say, okay, suppose if Kiran is doing something wrong, also I should say, Kiran, I love you. I have to tell Kiran that I love you 24/7. But when you do X, Y, Z, I get very disappointed. It's very important for us to teach parents, child is very different from the behavior. Child is worthy of our love and affection 24/7, but we can always make corrections and they can always have consequences based on the behavior. That's what I mean by psychoeducating the parents. So I think it's very important. At the conclusion, I say parents should not be taken lightly. We have to have trusting relationship, honest relationship with the parents, failing which schools will fail miserably in providing emotional and social well-being of the child. So I end here. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Fatima ma'am, for sharing your experiences. And I think there's a lot of learning that we have got from your experiences with the children, with the teachers, in your school setup, in your private practice. And very, very important thing that you brought out is the parents and teachers, parents and schools need to be on the same page. And the blaming that happens sometimes. कभी टीचर बोलती है कि घर से क्या सीख कर आया, माँ बाप ने ये सिखाया क्या, और कभी पेरेंट्स बोलते हैं कि तुम्हारे टीचर ने ये तुम्हें क्या सिखाया है, ये सिखाया है क्या. So a lot of blame game that happens between parents, school, I guess that is something which should not happen, and schools should understand parents, parents should understand school, and both need to be working collaboratively for the child's well-being. So that's very, very important point you talked about. Quality time. So children are spending a lot of time in school. Are parents giving quality time? And also, what do I understand? What is my understanding as a parent about quality time? So do I understand quality time? तो उसके लिए psycho education होना कितना जरूरी है? So if schools are able to empower parents by doing psycho education, I guess it's going to really help the parents to have positive relationships with the children, and the relationship between parents and school will also be really healthy and positive. So and also a very interesting thing you talked about how children are coming up with diagnosis themselves. Yes, that even we see Google Baba सच में बहुत कुछ पढ़ा रहा है. And yeah, so thank you so much. Thank you so much, Fatima ma'am. It was very, very insightful. Thank you for sharing your experiences and making it real for us here. Thank you. So now we would like to have questions from the audience. All our 4 speakers have spoken and they would like to have questions from you all.
Yes, so if there are any questions, you can post it in the chat, or if you would like to ask the speakers yourself, then you could raise your hand and then I can unmute you. We do have one question in the live chat, which I'd like to read out.
Sure.
So Mr. Kanha Sahu is asking us, how do we complete lesson plans? Because again, you know, trying to manage a lot of the expectations, managing the classroom, managing the children, and especially in a situation where children are constantly having conflicts in the class, probably with each other, then how does a teacher or an educator actually cope with all of these diverse experiences in the class?
Thank you for the question. Is the question as in posted for some specific speaker, or anybody can answer?
Anyone who wishes to answer.
Who would like to answer? Liz ma'am wants to answer. Yes, Liz ma'am.
Unmute. I think it's a very, very important question. And I think it's something, Rohit referred to the fact that the school design of this, the entire design, teachers need time to reflect and interact with one another. And I think a lot of timetabling and overload on teachers does not give them this time. Lesson planning is one thing, but actually coming together and sharing reflections between teachers on the problems they're facing, I think is very valuable. So they themselves feel part of a problem-solving community. And the school needs to have a design for this, for reflection amongst teachers, of mutual support. Okay.
Thank you, Liz ma'am.
There is another question
May I answer?
from Ms. Darshana Soni.
Fatima
Yes,
ma'am
ma'am,
wants
you
to
were saying
add on.
something.
Yeah, so I agree with what Mrs. Mehta said, but I will just share some practices which we do in our schools and colleges. One is we groom peer counselors. So we can just identify 3-4 students from each class and give them the basic listening skills and some kind of conflict resolution techniques, and give them the badge of peer counselor. They feel very good about it, and they can also try to help the children, academic and behavior. We have put the boxes on each floor. Okay, and if children need any kind of help from us, without name also and with name also, they are free to drop this in the box, which is open daily by the counseling department and the principal together, and they try to sort it out. Also, we do beginning of the academic year, the class teacher first week is the time for teacher to know the child at the first hand. So a lot of introduction happens, a lot of informal interaction happens between the child and teacher, and that is the point of time when children are encouraged to make the class rules, and they make the classrooms with the consequences, and they hang it a beautiful chart in the classroom which is made by the students themselves. So it's not imposed on them. So when these rules are made by the students themselves, they really want to abide by them. So these are the little few things. I'm not saying that's really very good, but we should try somewhere, because we are dealing with a number of children in the class. It's not only 15 children in the classes. We don't have that kind of luxury. We are an overpopulated country, so we have to understand the number also.
Pooja ma'am wants to say something. Yes,
Yeah.
Pooja.
Yeah, so actually, the whole point of, the question about the lesson plan. So, what is our understanding about a lesson plan? So, the generalized understanding is lesson plan is a time-bound a plan of action that needs to be initiated. There are some content-based learning outcomes that the teacher has designed, and a 30-40 minute session is what we are targeting and we are intending to complete. Now, if the class is disturbed that day, there are deviant behaviors, the teacher is in a fix, whether to go ahead with the lesson plan because there are constraints of time and there are syllabus problems, completions are there, targets are there, or, should she address the issue that is surfacing in the class? Now, ideally, the teacher should address the issue because, if the class is disturbed or the class is not paying attention, leave alone all the other things that you aspire to achieve through the lesson, even your learning outcomes will not be achieved. Now, again, I would say there is a very fluid understanding of a lesson plan, of the completion of the lesson plan. That is, that is something that, is within the brackets. That's something that you're looking forward to. And I think the whole issue, again, we go back to what is the philosophy of the school and what is it that the school is looking at? Is the school looking at syllabus completion? Is the school giving autonomy to the teacher to just to stop that time, address the issue, and not be bound by time constraints and completions, because these are all fruitless completions. So they're just paper work, that you have completed so many sessions. So they're actually not targeting anything. So then what kind of, I again would say we have very restricted autonomy when it comes to the teachers, So we are not the decision makers even in our own classrooms. And that is why this whole issue of whether we should go ahead with the lesson or should we look at beyond the lesson, And I think even the classroom management and what is happening in the class is also a part of the lesson, because if the students are not ready, if the students are occupied elsewhere, whom am I addressing, whom am I teaching, so that's the big question.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes. Mr. Rohan Kamble would like to understand what is the NEP 2020 saying about mental health?
Who would like to answer that?
May I?
So this question is for any speaker. Yeah.
So NEP is talking a lot about mental health, as usual. Okay, it says about compulsory counseling services, compulsory remedial education in schools, compulsory social emotional curriculum. Now the implementation we have to wait and watch. So it is there in the book. I stop here.
Thank you, Fatima, ma'am. Anybody else who would like to answer?
I will just echo what Fatima said. NEP has kind of named and outed, like if you will see in the section where they speak about nutrition and health, they actually in the bracket say including mental health, right? So there is a very conscious effort in NEP to look at well-being as the central discourse in a school setting. The question is that what happens to a policy in practice, right? So, I mean, the answer to this question is that NEP is talking about mental health to a decent degree, at least from the previous policies annexed.
Thank you, Mr. Rohit. Liz, ma'am, you would like to add?
Yeah, I think I'd support what has been said, but I think the problems at the moment are so immense. I mean, where are the mental health workers to support the policy? It's just like the inclusion policies. We all agree, and it's been in all the reports from time immemorial that schools need to be inclusive. But where are the special educators? Where are the professionals trained to set these policies in motion? And I think we all need to work together in order to generate these resources to bring about the change.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Can we take one more question? So, Ms. Darshana Soni would like to understand, how do we psycho-educate our parents?
Okay, so since I was the one who spoke about psychoeducation, one, conduct the regular interaction and workshop with the parents on different age-appropriate kind of concerns for each. Extend the counseling facilities, then parents can have individual kind of concerns being addressed. So these are the two things one can actually start. Periodical workshop with the parents as a group, bigger group, and extending the counseling facilities for individual parents also to come and talk. I'm actually toying with the idea, and I'm halfway through. I'm trying to float soon a certificate course in good parenting, which I think is needed. But that's a dream if it comes true. But otherwise, we can start at least with these two things. Extend the counseling facility for individual parents to come and approach us, and have the periodical workshops on age-appropriate concerns.
Thank you, Fatima, ma'am.
Kiran, there is one interesting question, I think, which we can address before we close. there is a question related to the mental health of pre-primary children. So it says that since pre-primary children don't really know what is happening around them and they're probably not able to articulate what is happening around them, how do we understand their mental health needs?
Liz ma'am wants to answer.
The red flags are available at different age level. So pre-primary also red flags are available in terms of speech and gross motor and otherwise or emotional anxiety. All children when they come to pre-primary they are very anxious because that is their introduction to the world outside from the cozy environment of home. So we don't have to worry about that. We have to just provide them this kind of accepting, loving environment and not focus on academics. Please understand, preschool is before school and not school. So the focus should be how to prepare them for final schooling. And how do we prepare them? We accept them for what they are. We give them this kind of acceptance, love, and care. Make them feel safe. And if you're able to do all that and provide them this kind of emotional vocabulary also, that this is anger, this is happiness, this is that, and how to just express it in words and not in action. If you are able to do only this much, it's okay for the pre-primary section.
Thank you, Fatima ma'am. Liz, your hand is up.
Yes, I mean, the early childhood stage is the most important stage. And I feel very, very strongly about this. Children, young children are naturally confident. They're confident about the world around them. They're curious. They're wanting to learn. And if we create the right environment to support that learning and give them opportunities, I think a lot of lack of well-being would disappear. I think we ourselves as adults create a lot of the problem for children, and we need to get parents through experiencing it themselves the kind of environment that young children need. There's so much pressure on them to conform. Prepare for the primary, yes, but they need to live their lives as they're meant to live them, which is to explore, to follow up on their own curiosity, to answer questions, to interact, to have opportunities to interact. And I think that's crucial. The early childhood curriculum is really what needs looking at to support the natural development of children. Thank you.
Thank you, Liz ma'am.
That? Thank you everyone for your valuable time and a wonderful session. It was a very learning experience for us and for all the ones who are present, I am sure. So let's call it a day. And if there are
Can I
any
quickly
queries,
summarize?
yes, Ashwini, sorry.
Yes. Thank you, Dhanashree. So amazing. I mean, amazing, yet a lot to be done, and a lot of questions that have come up. We have started thinking about the school design. Are we doing enough? Are the systems good enough? Are we taking care of teachers and children? Are the spaces safe for teachers, for parents, for children, for the stakeholders? Are we inclusive? Are we respectful? How about load on teachers? How about pressures on pre-service teachers, teacher trainees who are training to become teachers? Are we listening enough? Are we taking pauses? Are we reflecting? So I guess this talk has got a lot of questions for us to think about. Yeah, thank you. Thank you to all the speakers for giving your inputs. Thank you for having these conversations with us. And I feel that we really need to advocate mental health curriculum, which is robust in nature and which is not just a subject, but it brings about systemic changes. And I think Fatima ma'am was talking about how children are considered to be problems, or sometimes teachers are considered to be problems. And I've been doing this narrative therapy course, and we are talking about how problem is a problem and person is not the problem. So there are systems, and we need to look at the systems and strengthen them for the well-being of each stakeholder of education. Thank you. Over to Dhanashri.
Thank you, Kiran. Thank you so much. So once again, thank you to all the wonderful speakers who are here, who have imparted their valuable knowledge to all the ones who are present here. So there are so many takeaways from the session. Today, for my own takeaway was that all children, what Fatima ma'am said, all children deserve love, especially the children who don't deserve. That was a very strong statement. So that is my takeaway from the today's session, as well as many wonderful learnings from the Lilis ma'am, Miss Dr. Pooja, and Rohit ji. So thank you once again. We are really privileged to have you here, and I hope everybody who have attended this are taking away something valuable with them. Thank you once again. Now over to Shruti for announcements.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, everybody, for being a part of the webinar. We're really happy to have so many of you join in our Zoom platform as well as in the YouTube live chat. And we are so happy to have this conversation today on mental wellness. And we got to learn so much about the different aspects of implementing a mental well-being curriculum. So, just a couple of announcements. We've shared the link of the feedback form in our Zoom and our YouTube live chat. So, please do fill up the form so that it will help us plan better for the future webinars. In case you've missed seeing this webinar, the recording will also be uploaded on our YouTube channel, and we shall be sharing the recording link with all our participants who've registered, along with some key takeaways. So the conversation would be fresh in your minds, and we can continue having many more such dialogues on mental wellness. We also had a webinar on the importance of teachers' beliefs in maintaining good health and well-being of students, which happened in the month of January. So the recording is available on our YouTube channel, the link of which has also been shared in the chat box. We have an upcoming webinar in the month of March, which is on the importance of a holistic curriculum. So please do register for that one as well. And we really hope to have you join in our third webinar. And we look forward to hosting many more such webinars to keep learning and growing together. We would love to stay connected with all of you, and these are some of the ways in which we could engage with each other. If you have any queries about the work that we do or would like to share something about your organizations, then please do write to us at contact@muktangan.edu.org. You can also go to our website to know more about our work. And we do have platforms through which you can contribute towards quality education, either through donations or volunteering or even internships. We really love to have people with diverse skills and experience be a part of our community. We are very active on social media, so do follow us at NGO Muktangan on the various social media platforms that you could see on your screen. And do subscribe to our YouTube channel as well, because we keep posting a lot of content across our platforms. And thank you once again, everybody. Do stay tuned for information regarding our upcoming webinar. We would love to have you participate and join in. Thank you once again to all our speakers for providing us with such valuable insights on mental wellness. And thank you to Ms. Kiran and Ms. Dhanashri for facilitating the webinar in such a wonderful manner. Thank you once again, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.